U.S. President Joe Biden and top congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy have edged closer to a deal to avoid a looming U.S. debt default. Republicans have refused to vote to lift the debt ceiling past its $31.3 trillion limit unless Biden and the Democrats agree to spending cuts in the federal budget. The threat of an economic nightmare has prompted Biden to cancel his visit to Papua New Guinea and Australia. Nathan King reports from Washington.
Deal or no deal? Well, no deal. But a deal could be close. That's the message of the second round of high-level talks on raising the U.S. debt ceiling. Remember, the U.S. owes the rest of the world and domestic creditors. They usually up the debt limit every year, but it can be a standoff and has been at times of partisan government like we have right now in Washington. So essentially, it was only about an hour, but what came out of this is that both Joe Biden, President, obviously, and the Speaker of the House, Republican Kevin McCarthy, agreed to have a two-man on each side negotiating team, and they think, even though they're far apart, that a deal could be reached by the end of the week. Let's take a listen.
How can we grow our economy and make us less dependent on China and actually work together? It is possible to get a deal by the end of the week. It's not that difficult to get to an agreement.
We have to proceed with the fierce urgency of now in order to make sure we can reach that bipartisan, common sense, common ground agreement so that we can protect the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people.
Now, the Republicans want deep budget cuts in the Biden agenda, including some things that really touch the third rail of a lot of Democratic politics, like having to work if you receive Medicare, cutting programs when it comes to things like investing in infrastructure and green energy and healthcare. That's not going to happen, but there may be some wiggle room. And essentially, the Biden administration said, look, the debts are things we've already spent money on. What you're asking for is cuts in the future. Let's talk about in the budget. Let's raise the debt ceiling. They're going to try and do a dance, it looks like, to do both at the same time, or at least guarantee both at the same time. But this has not been easy for anyone. And 2 weeks away from that June 1st deadline that Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is so worried about and repeating every day, it seems like now. And essentially, Joe Biden was meant to take a week-long trip across Asia. First the G7 in Japan, then to Australia and Papua New Guinea. They have called off the Australia and Papua New Guinea part of that because they know they have to be back here.